All right, so I just saw King of Kings, and this one's a little hard for me to explain because me myself being a Christian, I hold all of these truths that are represented on screen as full truth and sacred, just as Scripture is, obviously. So reviewing this from that perspective and also being a film lover, it's more of an interesting dynamic to navigate around. But I'll try my best. So this movie is just basically a whole highlight reel of Jesus' ministry, along with his death and resurrection, of course. And they're taking from all the core gospel, or the gospels, and all the elements that they bring for who Jesus was and what he did and why he came to earth, and basically everything we believe as Christians. And that part in the movie overall, I actually thought it was pretty good. I was a little nervous going into it at first because from what I saw in the trailers, I was a little nervous that they were trying to make this very Hollywood, very washed down, very mass appealing, acceptance to all audiences, basically. And that's where I thought this was going to go at first. But thankfully, the actual story itself and all the core messages that the gospel brings through Jesus's voice and everything he was meant to do on this earth, that is all faithful and it's all true. So I was actually very happy with that. I mean, it is also produced by Angel Studios, and they've proven to be a pretty good track record overall with these conservative, you could call it, or religious media.
So all that stuff is really good, but the only glaring issue I have with this movie is the actual setup to tell the story of Jesus. We are introduced to the main story of Jesus through the lens of this family, more so this little boy and his father telling the story. And this is where I have much more glaring issues with the movie, because the whole setup behind the family telling the story is built upon just really petty time filler. Like, we have our introduction to the father, who is basically like a business owner of a theater, and he's doing a whole theatrical performance of Charles Dickens, or Scrooge, I should say. And then we also get introduced to the son, who we, as an audience, begin to realize really soon that this son is just a little prick. I'm sure the movie wants us to realize that the son is being a bit rebellious and, over the top to an extent. But I really think the execution of the way how the son is not only just performed by the voice actor, but also just his actions overall are so mischievous and just so annoying as an audience member to listen and watch to, because the dad, who is running the theater, is not even disciplining his kid in any way. And then later on, we see that the father pays for his actions, not the son. It's all the father's fault for being too harsh on the kid, when really, in reality, he has to be cracking down way more on the whip, in my opinion. And the son really never learns his lesson in any way throughout the whole movie, while learning about the historical context of Jesus and why he came to earth and why he died and all of those really important topics. The reason why I'm emphasizing all of this setup before the actual story starts in the movie is because we as an audience are with these characters throughout the whole movie, and they do not change in a single way. I'm talking more about the son in this instance, where he just does not smarten up or learn any discipline ever, except just that he is such a good boy, and he has such a cute cat, and golly gee, he has such a good heart inside. Yeah, so I kind of hated these characters, and them having to be the main leads of the story that they're bringing us through was really annoying to tolerate, because I just wanted to straighten them up. More so the son, like I keep saying, because the son just never learns his lesson, despite being told that Jesus died for his sins, and man, you can be made a new creature in him if you believe, and all that stuff, which is true. The fact is that he never changes his actions. And my gosh, they devote so much time to this darn cat just to fill up screen time, because look how cute he is, he's being a little cat. Isn't that cute? He's basically just another version of the little boy, just told in a cat form. They're basically the same character, and they both annoyed me a lot. And the father being told that the father has to do better, that he's not doing a good job and he has to be more gracious with his son, that really agitated me because that is not how a relationship like this works. So that bothered me on all fronts in this movie. It was really irritating to watch. But on the positive side though, the actual reenactment of the story of Jesus was pretty solid actually. Every single factual thing that is stated or replicated on screen is all true and based on the Gospels. And honestly, the animation was adapted in a really cool way. I think honestly the best thing about this movie overall is the look of the movie, meaning that the animation and also the concept art and the final results of how everything looks is just awesome. The lighting of certain shots are really good actually. Everything is very smooth and you can tell what's going on. There's not a whole bunch of visual noise that's distracting you. You can really tell that the animators are just putting so much thought into every single detail of every shot. The design of the characters, on the other hand, I'm not a huge fan. Everyone just looks like they're bobbleheads, especially Jesus. For some reason, I don't know why they gave him such a skinny body and such a big round head. It just threw me off because usually when it comes to character design in animation, regardless if it's 3D or 2D, there's always a good reason why that character looks a certain way. If you look back in a movie like, say, Incredibles, then you'll know that each character design is so pivotal to each person because that represents as a visual representation of who they are. Mr. Incredible, for example, would be the big muscle man dad who's trying to make things work, but also, let himself go a little bit. And now he's a bit pudgy, but he's still big, but trying to hold the family together through his big strength. And that goes down to just how he looks with a very big, broad upper body and, smaller lower half body, very cartoonishly on purpose. And then you also have Elastigirl, who is obviously by default in her powers as well, trying to make things stretchy and trying to make things work as a mom, trying to pull things together from very far distances, emotionally and relationally, being under a lot of stress, etc. But do you see my point though? Those characters have a reason for why they look the way, and it serves the story a better purpose because of that. And when you look back at King of Kings, for example, in my opinion, it just looks very cartoonish just for the sake of being cartoonish, and it just really distracts me from the main message that the movie is trying to teach me, because the message itself is good on top of all the flaws that are baked into the characters who are telling the story, and also, like I said, the visual character design. I really feel like this movie has some good potential to do well in theaters, and from what I've heard already, it's been doing pretty good overall. I just feel like this movie needs a little bit of tweaking to make it really good, because unfortunately, those problems that I have with it, they really stand out, and I honestly don't know how other audiences, especially kids, will react to that. I would still recommend going and seeing this movie instead of so many other animated movies that have come out recently. Yeah, despite the glaring flaws and issues I have with it, I still respect that this is being shown in theaters and people need to see truth. So would I recommend it? Yeah, given everything I said before, I guess I would. I think it's definitely worth supporting, especially in this day and age where lots of this kind of stuff is being washed out by modern media. So yeah, go give it a watch. Let me know what you think. Am I being overreactive with how crazy the main characters are being portrayed? Or do you think I'm right? Let me know in the comments. But if you want a proper grading from me, I would have to say this one's a 6 out of 10 for me. Some glaring issues in it for sure, but the good in it is really good. And yeah, that's why I recommend it enough.